Episode 57 CK, January 26, 2025. Our tax dollars not working for health and environment under Trump. In episode 57 CK 1A and 1B United States Culture 1C, United States government health researchers alarmed as Trump administration pauses travel and communications. 1D United States public health, the vaccine schedule is under fire. 1E 1F 1G and 1H United States government environmental regulation 1I and 1J United States government Trump actions 1K. United States public health 1L and 1M, United States media 1N, United States outside government Musk plan 1O, United States outside government health. Insurance industry, it is a death sentence. 2A California battery plant, a massive battery fire in California could cast a dark shadow on clean energy expansion. 2B 2C 2D 2E and 2F California Wildfire Federal Aid. 3 North Carolina Wildfire Federal Aid. 4 Oregon and California bird flu kills cats. 5 Canada. 6A United Kingdom and Canada face United States tariffs. 6B United Kingdom Trump history of meetings with UK leaders. 6C United Kingdom Musk promotes UK felon Andrew Tate while a successful UK trader. While promoting his newly published paperback quotes UK felon Andrew Tate in criticism of Labour Party UK economy. 7 Greenland Trump again demands to buy Greenland in horrendous call with Danish Prime Minister. Main content introduction. Residents against would smoke emission particulates are interested as Trump voters said they were in the problem of inflation in the United States. Inflation and interested in lowering the price of groceries. Is Trump addressing these economic issues in his first 7 days? Know the price of groceries and whether Trump and the Republican Party lowers the price of groceries is an issue that Democrats and RAWSEP, which will benefit from the heat pump rebates introduced by a Democratic president, should use as an argument for change in the 2026 elections from the present actions taken by Trump today, because heat pump rebates are threatened to be clawed back by Trump and the Republicans. RAWSEP has to take a political stand against the negative economic policies and negative environmental policies and negative public health policies introduced by Trump in the last week. The editor of RAWSEP came across the following common sense advice this week. The Democratic Party must oppose Mr. Trump when necessary, but Democrats should experiment with local and state governments where they hold power. There they can show how they can streamline regulations, promote more citizens from working class backgrounds to positions of power, and move away from thought policing. The editor of RAWSEP interjects here that changing the minds of current indoor residential wood burners to common sense voluntary changeover to clean energy heat pumps that work down to 40 degrees below zero and can work also as air conditioners and lower monthly electricity bills immediately is not thought policing, but is only fair play to be tried as the polite first step before imposing common sense regulation and shutdown of the air pollution from indoor residential wood burning that sickens near neighbors. Protecting the health of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners is the common sense aim of RAWSEP. In this episode 57 CK, RAWSEP is of the opinion that United States government health researchers should not have their travel and communications shut down. RAWSEP believes that vaccine schedules for children and adults should be adhered to because vaccines protect public health. RAWSEP believes that electric vehicle emission standards should be strengthened so that the United States will keep up with and hopefully exceed what other countries around the world are requiring of their automobiles, which will increase the use of clean energy electric cars everywhere and so protect human health and slow climate change. RAWSEP believes that neo-Nazi groups should not be encouraged in the United States and around the world. RAWSEP believes that health insurance requirements should not lead to harmful delays in providing healthcare. RAWSEP believes that all safety requirements for battery factories should be adhered to. RAWSEP believes that FEMA should provide help to the United States as it has done in the past under the Biden administration, requiring Trump to acknowledge that climate change is causing more natural disasters such as wildfires may lead Trump to face reality and face the fact that the United States must move to slow climate change, not move to support more air polluting fossil fuel use, and not move to support more air polluting wood burning power plants. RAWSEP believes that bird flu is a developing problem in the United States, and RAWSEP believes that government health researchers should not be muted at such a critical time because collaboration among researchers is important at this time. RAWSEP believes that the United States should not threaten our traditional allies with tariffs which are not helpful economically to either the United States or its allies. RAWSEP agrees with the UK social media message of Gary Stevenson that the rich must be taxed in order for the rich to pay their fair share to society. RAWSEP is curious about the influence of this UK voice of Gary Stevenson and hopes that his message is not co-opted by Elon Musk in some way that somehow twists taxing the rich in the UK into an unfair critique of the current Labour government of Keir Starmer, or twists taxing the rich to connect it somehow with the views of the UK right-wing felon Andrew Tate, whom Musk supports on social media. 1A United States culture. Energized neo-Nazis feel their moment has come as Trump changes everything. Far-right chat rooms are abuzz as extremists plan to use the next 4 years as breathing room and look to expand excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian, Sunday, January 26, 2025, 1 week into Donald Trump's second administration, and the verdict among far-right activists and neo-Nazis is that the next 4 years will be a time to relax, organize, and take advantage of the popular awakening of American fascism. Be ready to cash out the next 4 years, wrote one delighted neo-Nazi account on Telegram in a post viewed more than 1,000 times. Get the bag, infiltrate existing institutions with power, build new institutions, while we have breathing room, and tear down anything leftist. There seems to be little debate that Musk gesture was a Roman salute code for a Sieg Heil among neo-Nazis. An ex-Marine and leader of the Blood Tribe neo-Nazi group proudly wrote to his followers about an ex-post showing a video of a Nazi salute from a member in his group, juxtaposed with a video of Musk identical gesture. 14 million views on this one. He posted before applauding his group for owning the Roman salute and the swastika in the news. Musk claims he was making a gesture symbolizing how his heart went out to the crowd. Another account in the same far-right ecosystem posted facetiously 1B United States culture. Washington, D.C. What Trump supporters want for the future of America. Scenes from a return to power in Washington. The Make America Great Again victory rally on January 19th. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, January 25th, 2025. For Trump, the world is made up of binaries of domination and submission, and every Trump supporter standing outside Capital One Arena could read the subtext of the black tie receptions hosted by the likes of Mark Zuckerberg. What did ordinary Trump voters actually want from this restoration? Woman car dealership cashier in Wilkes-Barre, Pa. We are so divided. I do not like all this woke stuff. I think I was 18 before I knew that there was gay people. I listened to Queen. I did not know he was gay. Amish came out in Pennsylvania. They came out in their horse and buggies. It was incredible. So that is a united country again. We are tired of being lied to. Man, retired electrician smack over Arkansas. When I speak to people that basically hate Trump, well, I never hated Biden. I did not hate Obama. I went to a big prayer and praise convocation yesterday at the Greater New Hope Baptist Church, which is a Black Lives Matter church. African from Africa man detention service officer, Dallas County Sheriff Department, Dallas. I believe with Jesus at Trump's side. I came here legally. Illegal immigrants should not be allowed in the country. He can deport them. Man wearing a Donald Trump beanie. Trump merchandise vendor, Sarasota, Florida. I hope to have our economy stabilized. Man, Ohio Department of Development. Administrative staff, Sugar Creek Township, Ohio. Trump will usher in a new golden era for America. You are going to see the cost of energy going down. Woman retired marketing executive, Sugar Creek Township, Ohio. He knows that he has limited time to get a lot done. Man, real estate developer, Dallas. My mom and dad came from South India. If my parents came here legally and followed the rules and did it right and became U.S. citizens, the people that come here illegally, that is not right. Man and wife retired. Investor, Chester County, Pa. We have 4 children. They are all living with us. We have a 30-year-old living in the basement with his fiancée, woman insurance agent, Miami. Trump almost died. Woman Peruvian immigrant, Washington, D.C. If we do things correctly and pay our taxes, do not kick us out. Man, Asian small business owner, Chicago. I was at the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. It was a setup. If they are insurrectionists, they are the most incompetent insurrectionists in human history. Man, college student at the University of Mississippi, Gunnersville, Alabama. I transferred out of the high school that I was going to graduate from because there were guys that were going into the girls' bathroom. Woman and son, textile designer, Gunnersville, Alabama. We are homeschooling him right now because of what the schools have become. This one has always been like obsessed with Donald Trump. I mean, every paper he writes, every project he does in school, everything is about Trump. 1C United States government health researchers alarmed as Trump administration pauses travel and communications. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Washington Post, January 24, 2025. The Trump administration halted communications at the Department of Health and Human Services. No meetings of cancer researchers to discuss issuing new federal grants. No new scientific reports on lessons from fighting avian flu, not even private briefings for congressional staffers who have questions about health agency operations. Health officials and experts said this week they are reeling after the new Trump administration on Tuesday abruptly halted external communication at the Department of Health and Human Services and its agencies, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health. The pause extends through February 1, 2025. The Trump administration also issued a second order indefinitely halting the travel of HHS personnel. The first Trump administration in 2017 also immediately paused some communications at federal agencies. Trump campaigned on pledges to weaken the civil service. The decision to halt communications has alarmed some career civil servants who remember how political appointees in the first Trump administration pressured healthcare personnel to align with Trump-owned messages about the coronavirus. 1D United States Public Health. The vaccine schedule is under fire. What is the evidence for it? Here is why doctors recommend getting specific shots at specific times, as well as what happens when parents stray from that advice. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, January 25, 2025. Before their immune systems mature, young children are especially vulnerable to infections and to falling far more ill than adults might with certain common illnesses. That is why childhood vaccination programs have been such a boon for public health. In the past 30 years, recommended childhood vaccines have prevented an estimated 11 million deaths and 32 million hospitalizations in the United States. The recommended schedule for these vaccines is first set by an advisory committee to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which reviews the recommendations and decides whether to adopt them. The committee members, which include experts in vaccination, infectious disease, pediatrics, and public health, meet several times each year to review the latest clinical trials as well as health and safety data from the general population. Today, children vaccinated in line with these recommendations are protected from 16 diseases, including infections that can cause paralysis, brain damage, and deadly fevers. Those who are not given recommended shots or follow an alternative schedule, which research suggests is the case for an estimated 27% of U.S. children, may be at higher risk of developing these preventable illnesses. When we start spacing things out, the danger is that either the child gets exposed or we never get them caught up and they miss out entirely. Why is the vaccine schedule set the way it is? To understand why doctors recommend vaccinating on a specific schedule, it is helpful to understand what protection babies need and when we want them to have maximal protection when they need it. And when they need it is when they are at the highest risk of serious infection and before they are exposed. Second, we want to give vaccine doses when their immune system is mature enough to respond to them well. The hepatitis B vaccine is recommended at birth because the infection, which can lead to permanent liver damage and cancer, is highly transmissible during delivery. It can also spread through drops of blood on surfaces or skin. Before the vaccine, about 18,000 children were infected each year, about half of them at birth. Today, hepatitis B is vanishingly rare among U.S. children. At the baby 8-week checkup, doctors recommend shots that protect against whooping cough, tetanus, and polio, along with other infections that can cause pneumonia, brain swelling, and heart damage. At this point, the baby immune system will have matured enough to effectively make antibodies, proteins that protect the body from specific infections. In response to these shots, these vaccines require additional doses over the next year and a half to maximize protection. At around 6 months, babies should also start receiving annual vaccines to protect against flu and COVID-19, both of which can be deadly for infants thanks to protective antibodies that they receive from their mothers. In utero, babies are born with immunity to a few dangerous infections, including hepatitis A, measles, mumps, and rubella. That means certain vaccinations can wait until that immunity wanes. Around age 1, Dr. Thielen said babies also receive vaccines against chickenpox at this age. Right before kindergarten, children receive one more round of booster shots to give the immune system another update. What happens when parents stray from the recommended schedule? A few years ago, a child arrived at Oregon Health and Science University with a tetanus infection. Dr. Hoffman said before that, I do not think a single person at OHSU had ever seen tetanus. He said the child was in the intensive care unit for months. Dr. Thielen said she had cared for children with measles and permanent brain injuries from meningitis. All of them, she said, had fallen ill with diseases that vaccines could have prevented. 1E United States Government Environmental Regulation, Washington, D.C. Trump stocks EPA with oil, gas, and chemical lobbyists. Top political appointees are already at the EPA preparing to erase the EPA climate rules and pollution controls. Many of them have tried it before. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 25, 2025. President Trump is stocking the Environmental Protection Agency with officials who have served as lawyers and lobbyists for the oil and chemical industries, many of whom worked in his first administration to weaken climate and pollution protections. Lee Zeldin. Trump choice to lead the EPA has little experience with environmental policy. He will be expected to hit the ground running, though, to fulfill the Trump fire hose of orders directing the agency to cut regulations. Top appointees include David Fotuhi. Zeldin, second in command, a lawyer who recently challenged a ban on asbestos. Alex Dominguez, a former oil lobbyist who will work on automobile emissions, and Aaron Sabo, a lobbyist for both the oil and chemical industries who is expected to be the top air pollution regulator. The division of EPA that evaluates the safety of new chemicals now includes Nancy Beck, a longtime chemical industry lobbyist, and Lynn and DeCleva, who has been working for the American Chemistry Council, a trade group. It is alarming to see former industry lobbyists and attorneys who until recently were paid by their clients to weaken pollution standards nominated to high-ranking positions at EPA, where they will have the power to undermine regulations meant to protect the public from these same industries. 1F United States Government Environmental Regulation. The Interior Department issued a memo ordering a 60-day pause on approvals for all renewable energy development on public lands, while President Trump had previously ordered federal agencies to freeze permitting for new wind farms. This order would also apply to solar projects on federal land. Trump, a longtime opponent of wind turbines, has lately begun criticizing solar panels too. In an interview with Fox News that aired on Thursday, he said, "You know what else people do not like? Those massive solar fields built over land." Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 24, 2025. The freeze is similar to a step that the Biden administration took in early 2021. Only then the Interior Department issued a 60-day freeze on federal approvals of new coal, oil, or gas projects on public lands. January 24, 2025. 1G United States Government Environmental Regulation. Trump administration live updates. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 25, 2025. Dominguez, the former oil lobbyist, is now a deputy assistant administrator who will serve as a point person for one of Trump's highest priorities, canceling the largest climate regulation in history designed by the Biden administration to cut the automobile pollution that is heating the planet under that rule. More than half the new passenger vehicles sold in the United States would have to be zero emissions by 2032. United States Government Environmental Regulation. What Trump executive orders really mean for the climate. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Time magazine. January 21, 2025. On Monday, Trump began the process of pulling out of the Paris Agreement promise to speed fossil fuel project approvals and declared an energy emergency. All of these efforts were designed to stimulate the U.S. fossil fuel industry and drill baby drill, signaling that the U.S. is no longer an authority on climate on the global stage. 1H United States Government Environmental Regulation. Fossil fuel billionaires boost wealth by $3 billion after Trump inauguration. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Time magazine. January 22, 2025. President Donald Trump inauguration on January 20th in Washington, D.C. brought the world's wealthiest people together to celebrate his return to the presidency, including Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, who have a combined net worth of nearly $900 billion. This is the payback for investing millions and millions of dollars to get Trump elected and clearing the way for members of Congress who are pro-industry and climate deniers. United States Government Project 2025. The blueprint for a Republican administration that was produced by the Heritage Foundation calls for flipping the financial burden of response to small disasters so that 75% is carried by states and the rest by the federal government. The Democrats actually used FEMA not to help North Carolina. Trump said. Ms. Criswell said Trump was wrong. She said that FEMA had deployed personnel to North Carolina before the storm made landfall with an army of staff members and partners that eventually numbered in the thousands. I do not know what he thinks we should have been doing, Ms. Criswell said. 1I United States Government. Trump moves to upend federal bureaucracy. Touch off fear and confusion. Agencies are gripped with uncertainty about how to implement the blizzard of new policies as workers frantically try to assess the impact on their lives for the more than 2 million federal workers. Changes inevitable whenever a new administration takes over, but few had expected it to come at this speed and scale. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 25, 2025. President Trump rapid push to overhaul the federal bureaucracy in his first days in office has been met with a mix of fear, fury, and confusion throughout the workforce. Dozens of employees across the government, many of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity because of worries of retribution, described agencies gripped with uncertainty about how to implement the new policies and workers frantically trying to assess the impact on their careers and families. As the nation's largest employer, the upheaval in the federal government could reverberate in communities throughout the country. Starting on Inauguration Day, the orders and memos came down one after the other, many crafted in the pugnacious tone of a campaign speech, stripping of civil service protections from a share of the federal workforce. The end to remote work, which one administration memo claimed had left federal office buildings mostly empty and rendered downtown Washington a national embarrassment. All new hiring was frozen, job offers were rescinded, scientific meetings were canceled, and federal health officials were temporarily barred from communicating with the public, a directive that some understood as so broad that it even extended to making outside purchase orders for lab supplies. On Tuesday morning, a woman who is an analyst at NASA joined a virtual town hall to learn what all the orders would mean for her small team, which monitors and audits projects in the space program. The acting supervisor's people she had known personally for years made it clear to everyone that they were not inclined to show flexibility. Gone was the weekly speaker series that had been organized under the diversity program, which had brought in deaf people, combat veterans, veterans, and others to share their experiences. Gone was her ability to live in Nashville and go twice a month to an office 2 hours away in Huntsville, Alabama. After the meeting, she and her colleagues went back to their jobs. They were rattled, but not afraid. The people who are acting most in fear are the ones in authority, but the change to remote work, combined with the other directives, was just too much for her. And so she sent in her notice. Nearly 6 years after she began working for the federal government, she was resigning. 1J United States government red draft options for GOP cost cuts for tax bill January 23, 2025. Top Republicans are passing around a 50-page list of ideas on how to cover the cost of a tax cut and immigration crackdown bill, including cuts to Medicaid and a 10% tariff on all imports. The list also includes tax cut proposals such as lowering the corporate tax rate and eliminating income taxes on tips. United States government health, public health, and politics. Yes, some vaccines contain aluminum. That is a good thing. RFK Jr. and others have blamed the ingredient for allergies and other illnesses. Scientists say it actually bolsters the immune response. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 24, 2025. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has often trained his criticisms of vaccines on a common ingredient, aluminum, which he has suggested is responsible for a litany of childhood ailments. To many vaccine scientists, aluminum is a strange target. It is among the most studied ingredients in vaccines and perhaps in modern medicine. If there was something jumping out about a lack of safety, we would most likely have seen it someplace, and it just does not appear. Aluminum salts, a more soluble form of the metal, are added to vaccines like the Tdap shot to bolster the body immune response. When scientists compared aluminum levels in the blood and hair of babies who had been given aluminum-containing vaccines versus those who had not, they found no significant difference. Some scientists believe that one potential side effect needs additional research. In 2022, after a federally funded study found a minor association between aluminum exposure from vaccines and asthma, the CDC noted that the link warranted further investigation. The agency said it would not change vaccine recommendations based on a single study. 1K United States Public Health KFF Health News. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The second Trump presidency interfered with the Department of Health and Human Services, where a traditional pause on public communications was expanded to an effective stoppage of scientific work as health agencies were ordered to cancel meetings, travel, and efforts on outside publications. It is unclear how long the order will stay in effect. President Donald Trump nominee to run the department, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., will not go before Senate committees for his confirmation hearings until the end of the month. While the coal industry could experience a small bump under Trump, experts said coal was simply too expensive to make a comeback. Coal is fundamentally uneconomic, said Sean O'Leary, senior researcher at the Ohio River Valley Institute, an energy think tank. Any need that is not met by wind or solar or battery storage will for the most part be met with natural gas, and coal will still be a distant fourth resource in that mix. The Trump administration unwavering commitment to fossil fuels could hinder the country competitiveness in the energy transition. China dominates the United States in virtually every aspect of clean energy, and fossil fuel generation has reached a historic low in the European Union last year. Solar overtook coal for the first time, and wind overtook both coal and gas, according to a new report by Ember, an energy think tank. 1 LA United States media. Washington D.C. CNN top anchors Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper were ordered not to express any outrage while covering Donald Trump inauguration. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. OK Magazine. January 24, 2025. CNN boss Mark Thompson seemingly wants his employees to be more sympathetic to Donald Trump as the network gears up for the next 4 years. According to a report, Thompson told 100 journalists, including stars Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper, not to prejudge the president during their inauguration coverage on Monday, January 20th. Thompson's strategy was a shift from former CNN boss Jeff Zucker coverage of Trump. 1LB United States media. Washington, D.C. A longtime associate editor at the Washington Post criticized his own newspaper for an editorial that blasted both President Donald Trump and his predecessor Joe Biden for having both abused their pardon powers and setting dangerous precedents. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Blue Sky and New York Post. January 24, 2025. David Moranis, who has spent nearly 5 decades at the Washington Post, took to social media on Wednesday and bemoaned the fact that his employer has utterly lost its soul. The Washington Post editorial this morning essentially equating Biden questionable pardons with Trump outrageous. January 6 pardons was unconscionable. Bezos, the Amazon founder, has so far ignored a request from more than 400 of the newspaper staffers to visit the newsroom in the wake of an exodus of talent sparked by the decision to spike an endorsement of then Vice President Kamala Harris. A large chunk of the newspaper left-leaning readership was so outraged by the move that a reported 250,000 subscribers canceled their memberships. Washington Post staffers have demanded a meeting with newspaper owner Jeff Bezos. Philip Rucker, the highly regarded national editor, left for CNN, while longtime opinion columnist and Trump criticizer Jennifer Rubin resigned to join Substack. Ashley Parker and Michael Scherer, two national political reporters, left for The Atlantic, while investigative political reporter Josh Dawsey quit to join the Wall Street Journal. Morale at the Washington Post has been further damaged by recent layoffs of staffers on the business side. Management at the newspaper has also laid down the law and told staffers that they are welcome to submit their resignation if they refuse to return to the office 5 days per week. 1LC United States media. We are watching mass delusion happen. Trump return to White House brings cascade of lies in first week in office. President has made false claims on topics from immigration and economy to Panama Canal. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian. Sunday, January 26, 2025. Donald Trump had been U.S. president again for less than 15 minutes when he made his first factually dubious claim: the vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. He said early in his inaugural address, there is no evidence that former President Joe Biden ordered the Justice Department to prosecute Trump, and no violence took place. The return of Trump to the White House for his second presidential term is also the return of what one critic called America liar in chief. His first week in office brought a cascade of false and misleading claims about including the economy and electric vehicles. Trump also used the interview to repeat a false claim that California Governor Gavin Newsom and other officials refused to provide water from the northern part of the state to fight fires. He falsely claimed that Newsom prioritized the preservation of endangered fish over public safety. Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg recently announced that the platform will abandon third-party fact-checking. There are content creators and content machines that exist solely for the purpose of laundering anything that Donald Trump says, and making it true to a certain degree. It is a play off the Richard Nixon quote, "If the president does it, it is legal. Well, if the president says it, it is true." That is the world that we live in now. 1LD United States Government and Politics. Fauci becomes the latest former official stripped of his government security protection. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. President Trump canceled Dr. Anthony S. Fauci government finance security protection on Thursday night. The move made Dr. Fauci, who received death threats during the coronavirus pandemic, the latest prominent former official to lose his security details since Trump returned to the White House. "You cannot have it forever," Trump said on a trip to North Carolina on Friday. A person familiar with the situation said Dr. Fauci, who retired from government service in December 2022, has hired his own security detail. Dr. Fauci, one of the nation's top health officials for decades and a former director of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, became a frequent target of conservative critics during the COVID-19 pandemic. In May 2022, a West Virginia man pleaded guilty to sending him and other federal officials emails that threatened to kill them and their families. Dr. Fauci did not have Secret Service protection. He was protected by federal marshals and later by a private contractor whose fees were paid by the government, the person said. 1LE United States Government and Politics. Some Democrats do believe Trump has already made significant mistakes that will cause political damage for him and Republicans. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 24, 2025. Hegseth could be confirmed with the smallest margin of any defense secretary. Democrats are also quick to point out that few of Trump's early actions have addressed inflation or grocery prices, which are top issues for voters that he pledged during the campaign to prioritize, and in a sign that substantive pushback to Trump policies is likely to come from state capitals rather than from Washington, Indiana, Wisconsin. Gov. Tony Evers, a Democrat, devoted 11 paragraphs in his annual State of the State speech on Wednesday night to defending immigrants' contributions to Wisconsin, though he did not mention Trump by name. 1 in United States outside government Musk plan for retooling government takes shape, but big questions loom. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The initial plan for retooling the federal government under President Trump started with 3 loyal billionaires: the banker Howard Lutnick, the tech leader Elon Musk, and the entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. Now it is down to one. Musk has told people that he plans to support Ramaswamy's eventual bid for governor of Ohio. What was clear was that there was room for only one billionaire at Doge. 10 United States outside government health insurance industry. It is a death sentence. U.S. health insurance system is failing, say doctors. Firms including United Healthcare have denied basic scans and taken months to reconsider. Physicians say. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, January 26, 2025. American doctors are accusing U.S. health insurance giants of causing deadly delays to vital medical procedures and care, and putting profits ahead of their patients. Health firms including United Healthcare have denied basic scans and taken months to reconsider, according to physicians who spoke to The Guardian. There is good evidence that these kinds of delays literally kill people, said Dr. Ed Weisbart, former chief medical officer for Express Scripts. One of the largest prescription benefits managers in the U.S. commercial insurance company's business model is designed on delaying, denying, and redirecting healthcare. We know a much better way. The much better way is to build a system on the traditional Medicare program, fix the things that are wrong with Medicare, and then simply provide that to everybody. Moving to a single-payer universal healthcare system would likely cost less than current national healthcare expenditure, according to a 2020 academic analysis, and save tens of thousands of lives each year. 2 A California battery plant. A massive battery fire in California could cast a dark shadow on clean energy expansion. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Inside Climate News. Fast Company, January 24, 2025. The blaze at Moss Landing in Monterey County, California may have been worse because of plant design and the types of batteries used. A massive battery fire in California could cast a dark shadow on clean energy expansion. A fire burns at the Vistra Corp Moss Landing battery storage facility in Moss Landing, California, U.S. on Friday, January 17, 2025, days before President Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office and took actions to stall the transition to clean energy. A disaster unfolded on the other side of the country that may have an outsized effect on the pace of the transition. Battery storage is an essential part of the transition away from fossil fuels. It works in tandem with solar and wind power to provide electricity during periods when the renewable resources are not available. But lithium-ion batteries, the most common technology used in storage systems, are flammable, and if they catch fire, it can be difficult to extinguish. The fire is the latest and largest of several at the Moss Landing site in recent years, and I expect that it will become the main example. Opponents of carbon-free electricity used to try to stop battery development in other places. This is really a 3-mile island event for this industry, said Monterey County Supervisor Glenn Church at a January 17 news conference. He was referring to the 1979 incident at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania. The partial meltdown led to panic across the region and helped to cement the idea that nuclear power was unsafe. I have been to enough local public hearings on energy projects to know that I am going to spend years hearing the quote be used to oppose any battery project, even ones that have little in common with Moss Landing in terms of design and technology. One can describe the fire risk by explaining thermal runaway, a self-heating process in which a lithium-ion battery is damaged or misused and triggers a chemical reaction that releases highly Flammable gases and lots of heat. If there is a spark or other flame, the gases can serve as fuel for a fire that can spread from one module to entire racks of batteries. Sprinkler systems may be able to help in an early stage, but many of these fires are too powerful and burn too hot to be suppressed. So how do system designers reduce the chances of thermal runaway? A big factor is the system design. Many, if not most, battery storage systems being built today look like rows of shipping containers that sit outdoors. These cabinets, as they are called, can help to reduce the chances of large fires, because flames would need to burn through the container shell and then leap across an outdoor space and burn through the shell of a nearby container. The systems that have now caught fire multiple times at Moss Landing are indoor installations set up inside the shell of a building left over from the natural gas plant that used to be on the site. The project is an unusually large example of repurposing an old building for energy storage. One strategy would be to have greater separation within the buildings, so there are hard barriers to reduce the spread of fire. Another significant fire risk factor is battery chemistry. The part of Moss Landing that caught fire housed lithium-ion batteries that used a nickel manganese cobalt, or NMC technology. This kind of battery has high energy density, which is good in terms of the amount of energy that can be stored, but has downsides in terms of heat tolerance. The higher the energy density, the spicier it can be. When damaged, NMC batteries have lost market share in favor of lithium iron phosphate, or LFP. A chemistry that has lower energy density. Among the other trade-offs is that LFP can produce more flammable gas than NMC. Although the severity of the fires is often less when you go down in energy density, you increase in safety. It is safer because it can tolerate higher temperatures. When it does fail, it does not necessarily produce a lot of arcing and sparking and flames right away. I asked what he wanted to still learn about this most recent fire. I like making decisions based on data. One of the most important data sets that we need to see is whether or not there was any toxic emissions that were actually measurable, either airborne as far down the smoke column as could be measured, or where people were, as well as any surface contamination. The Environmental Protection Agency said on Wednesday that its air monitoring of the site during and after the fire showed no risk to public health from the incident based on testing for hydrogen fluoride and particulate matter. I expect this fire to be a topic at public hearings about proposed systems across the country, and he expects it to be a topic at gatherings of officials and experts who set safety codes. I think that the question that will be on a lot of discussions in upcoming code meetings is, should they be allowed indoors? Should we look closer at that, and would limiting the installation indoors be an undue burden on electrifying our grid? He asked 2B California Wildfire Federal Aid Adam Schiff. Trump favorite foil tries to insulate California from his wrath. As a congressman who led the first impeachment of President Trump, Schiff relished his role in the resistance. Now a senator, he must protect his state interests at a perilous time. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, January 24, 2025, being public enemy number one of Die Hard Trump supporters helped elevate Schiff to the Senate seat he now occupies, but Schiff has risen at a complicated time. Large areas in his state have been destroyed by fires, and California will need federal disaster aid to rebuild. Trump has already threatened to withhold money unless Democrats furnish votes for his policy priorities. Question: so you really do not think Trump will be less likely to help California because of you? Schiff answer: I have no idea. At the end of the day, there is only one certainty about Donald Trump. He has for Donald Trump, he will change his view 5 times come Tuesday. The only consistency you will find is self-interest. It really depends on where he views his self-interest. To see California Wildfire Federal Aid. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, January 24, 2025. Trump muses about closing FEMA and says states should manage their own disasters. President Trump mused on Friday about shutting down the Federal Emergency Management Agency, saying that states could do a better job at responding to disasters. When you have a problem like this, I think you want to go, whether it is a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it. Trump said in Asheville, North Carolina, which was devastated by the remnants of Hurricane Helene last year. I think we are going to recommend that FEMA go away, and we pay directly. We pay a percentage to the state. Trump added the state should fix it. Trump does not have the authority to shutter FEMA, which would require congressional action. Historically, lawmakers from both parties have supported FEMA, knowing that their district or state could need the agency help at any time. Trump comments suggested that he misunderstood FEMA role, which is to support state and local officials only if those officials are unable to respond to disasters on their own, and only at the request of a governor. 2D California Wildfire Federal Aid. Donald Trump and the return of ransom note politics. Everything with Trump is a negotiation, a hostage negotiation. The foundational myth of Donald Trump is that everything is a deal. Deals are my art form, he wrote. In The Art of the Deal, I like making deals, preferably big deals. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Mother Jones, January 23, 2025. During his 2024 campaign, Trump promised to hold future disaster relief for California hostage, telling supporters shortly before they were abandoned without transportation at a Coachella Valley ranch that the money would only be released if Governor Gavin Newsom changed the state water management policies to divert more resources to agriculture. His administration did reject California request for disaster relief after a series of 2020 fires. It never approved a request for wildfire aid from Washington state. That same year, following the 2018 fires in Orange County, Trump was reportedly so unwilling to assist people he considered political enemies that a staffer on the National Security Council had to provide data on the number of Republicans who lived there to change his mind. Trump balked at sending more money to Puerto Rico in the wake of Hurricane Maria. 2E California Wildfire Federal Aid. From fires to mudslides, catastrophe has defined Newsom tenure. Gov. Gavin Newsom faces what may be his greatest political test and leadership challenge. He planned to greet President Trump upon his arrival in Southern California. On excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Friday, January 24, 2025. Gov. Gavin Newsom came into office in 2018, confronting one of the deadliest and most destructive fires in the state history, the Camp Fire, even before he was sworn in. Newsom accompanied Donald Trump, then the president, and Jerry Brown, then the governor, in inspecting a blaze that killed 85 people and consumed over 153,000 acres around the Butte County town of Paradise. On Friday, more than 6 years later, Newsom will once again greet Trump as the president comes to Los Angeles to view the aftermath of the latest devastating wildfires that have swept California, and it has long-term implications for any political career Newsom might pursue when his Term ends in 2026. He is barred by law from seeking a third term. He has made no secret of his interest in potentially running for president in 2028. Trump, in the aftermath of the campfire in November 2018, levied inaccurate claims about California policies on Thursday afternoon. Newsom was in Pasadena signing 2 bills to provide $25 billion in state money to support response and recovery efforts in Los Angeles. I just got back from the Hughes fire, Newsom said, referring to a new brush fire that broke out on Wednesday. He stepped to a lectern wearing jeans and a black parka, standing in front of elected officials who had assembled at a Pasadena school that opened on Thursday for the first time since the fires broke out. Newsom said at the news conference that he did not know whether he would be invited to accompany Trump as he visited parts of the state, but he said that he was going to the airport to greet him upon his arrival. The governor said he had not spoken to Trump since he left the White House in 2020. He said he had called Trump after his victory and again as the fires began, but had not heard back from the president. 2F California Wildfire Federal Aid. Trump visits California. Trump message to fire-ravaged California had a different tone. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 25, 2025. President Trump toured disaster zones on Friday in California and said for California relief would come with a catch. The visit showed Trump's willingness to flout the unwritten rules that have long governed United States disaster responses, cooperate with officials at all levels of government, bury political differences, act as a comforter and healer, and promise aid with no conditions attached. 3 North Carolina. Trump statements in North Carolina echoed comments he made on Wednesday night in interview. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization on Fox News saying FEMA is getting in the way of everything, referring to Oklahoma. He said if they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You do not need, and then the federal government can help them out with the money. Trump comments have FEMA staff feeling betrayed and scared. Our employees have been there for the American people over and over again, the employee said. For Oregon and California bird flu outbreaks and public health, cats may have gotten bird flu from raw pet food. Here is what to know. The cases have spurred new pet food safety rules and poultry surveillance efforts. Experts have long known that cats are susceptible to the bird flu virus, and feline infections surged after the virus began circulating in dairy farms about a year ago. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, January 23, 2025. Federal officials who spent the last year grappling with a surge of bird flu infections in cows and people are now confronting a spate of new cases in cats, some of which have died after eating contaminated uncooked pet food. Since early December, more than 24 cases have been confirmed in domestic cats in the United States. Officials have linked some of the cases to virus-laden raw milk, which is known to pose a serious risk to cats, but other cats fell ill after eating commercially available raw pet food. The first known cases in the country linked to pet food. The cases have already prompted one pet food manufacturer to recall some of its products, and last week federal officials announced new pet food safety rules and poultry surveillance efforts. Bird flu is an emerging contaminant in animal food. There is no evidence that infected cats have passed the virus on to people, and the cases have been linked specifically to unpasteurized milk and uncooked meat or poultry products. Most commercial pet foods are cooked or heat-treated. How are cats getting infected? Experts have long known that cats are susceptible to the virus, which is called H5N1, and is often fatal in felines. There have been sporadic deaths in cats that preyed on wild birds, and there was a spike in cat cases after bird flu began circulating in dairy farms about a year ago. Raw milk from infected cows often contains very high levels of the virus. Farm cats that died after lapping up raw milk often served as an early sign of an outbreak. Pasteurization, a process in which milk is rapidly heated and then cooled, inactivates the virus and makes milk safe to drink. According to the FDA, many of the recent infections occurred in indoor cats that had no known contact with wild birds or dairy farms. In December, Oregon officials announced that a pet cat had contracted bird flu and died after eating raw frozen pet food from Northwest. Natural samples of the feline turkey recipe tested positive for H5N1, and the virus was a genetic match for the one found in the cat. California has also reported bird flu infections in cats fed raw milk or pet food in one Los Angeles household. 5 cats got sick and 2 died after eating 2 kinds of raw pet food samples from one of the 2 brands. Monarch raw pet food tested positive for the virus. 2 cats lick raw milk from bowls on a living room floor. A photo provided by Joseph Jornell of San Bernardino, California, of his cats drinking raw cow milk in November 2024. Before the raw milk recall, Big Boy left was hospitalized but survived. Alexander Wright died. Some viral samples from infected cats were closely related genetically to samples from turkey farms in Minnesota. When bird flu is detected in a farm turkey or chicken, federal regulations require that all birds in that flock be killed. Those birds are not permitted in any food product at all. Turkeys and chickens typically become severely ill and die soon after they are infected, but if a bird picked up the virus right before it was slaughtered or somehow had a very mild infection, it could potentially slip into the food supply undetected. People who have questions or concerns can reach out to the pet food companies directly to ask where they source their ingredients and what food safety measures are in place. And if they cannot give you an answer to those just very simple questions, then there is your answer: stop buying their product. People should also try to limit their pets' contact with birds and wild animals in general and report sick and dead birds to local officials. 5. Canada-Ontario Premier calls early election in response to Trump tariff threat. Doug Ford, Ontario Conservative leader, has recently said that President Trump was going to try to devastate our country with a plan to impose tariffs on Canadian exports. A photo of Doug Ford wearing a baseball cap that reads "Canada is not for sale." Ontario Premier Doug Ford, speaking in Ottawa last week, has made clear that he plans to fight President Trump tariff plan. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization reporting from Toronto, January 24, 2025, the leader of Canada's most populous province and the heart of its vital auto industry said on Friday that he would call early elections because he needed a stronger hand to deal with President Trump's plan to impose tariffs on Canadian exports. Ford also launched a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign reminding viewers of Ontario contributions of energy and minerals to the United States. Trump reiterated his tariff threat on Thursday in remarks delivered to attendees of the Davos Economic Forum in Switzerland, saying that the United States does not need Canadian exports like lumber, oil, and gas. We have our own, said Trump. 6. A United Kingdom Kingdom and Canada face United States tariffs, we just cannot take the hit businesses worldwide brace as Trump threatens tariffs across the world. Exporters to the U.S. are preparing for an era of disruption if tariffs are imposed. Sunday excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, January 26, 2025. Donald Trump, a self-declared big believer in tariffs on foreign goods, has promised to use them to boost the U.S. economy, revitalize America's industrial heartlands, and reward the tens of millions of voters who sent him back to the White House. Come make your product in America, the president told top executives gathered at the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, promising low taxes to those who take him up on the invitation. But if you do not make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff. Exporters around the world are bracing for an era of disruption and uncertainty. The United Kingdom UK bespoke suits from London Savile Row could get significantly more expensive. Last time Trump was in office, London Savile Row became a target for his administration tariffs. In October 2019, every bespoke suit sold to the US from the UK was slapped with a 25% tax, part of a list of products targeted with duties in retaliation for the EU giving subsidies to plane maker Airbus. The tariffs were in place until 2021, well into the COVID pandemic, by which time tailors and many other businesses were struggling with a host of other issues. The business was partly protected by the ease of travel between New York and London before the pandemic, when US visitors to the UK were able to claim back VAT on goods they took home, and customers wanted the shopping experience of Savile Row back in 2019. However, sales to the US were only about a quarter of the tailor business. Now they account for more like 40%. So such a tariff would have more of an impact. Canada. For months Trump has goaded Canada with the threat of tariffs and suggested one way it could avoid them: you can always become a state, he said last week during his Davos appearance. Canadian businesses reliant on American exports are drawing up contingency measures. One owner told The Guardian that his firm, which ships pet products into the U.S., would likely falsely mark down the cost of raw production. This would allow them to pay lower taxes based on lower value material rather than be forced to raise prices. The threat of tariffs has sent Canadian politicians and business scrambling for a response. So much of the country trade is tied to the U.S., and exporters are worried the tariffs will harm their prospects. A recent survey from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business found that 65% of small businesses in the country will be forced to increase prices to offset the impacts of the trade levy. 6. United Kingdom Trump history of meetings with UK leaders. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Independent, January 23, 2025. President Donald Trump phone conversations with the two British prime ministers who served during his first term were apparently so madcap that they left staff at number 10 Downing Street in tears, according to a report in Politico. Any conversation between the then president and the two occupants of number 10 from 2017 to 2021, Theresa May and Boris Johnson, were appointment listening for civil servants and other aides in the prime minister PM orbit, with staff making a point to gather in a secure room or the prime minister private study to hear them speak with the American leader. One former Downing Street source described the conversations as extraordinary and brilliant. The latter meant more sarcastically, and said those who were present were there with tears of laughter because the calls were hilarious. The newly minted 47th president has yet to conduct his first leader-to-leader call with the current Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, though he met with Starmer for dinner alongside Foreign Secretary David Lammy last September. While he was running his presidential campaign, they spoke by phone on December 18th after Trump won the election, but the fact that details from that call leaked to the press shortly thereafter has put a chill on the vibes between number 10 and the White House. The Independent has also reported that Sir Keir's tentative choice of Lord Peter Mandelson as the next British ambassador to Washington is also a bone of contention, with Trump considering taking the unprecedented step of rejecting Lord Mandelson credentials. 6. United Kingdom Musk promotes UK felon Andrew Tate while a successful UK trader, while promoting his newly published paperback, quotes UK felon Andrew Tate in criticism of Labour Party UK economy. RAWSEP view RAWSEP needs to do more research on the ideas of Gary Stevenson, who quotes UK felon Andrew Tate and says they share some ideas, but Gary Stevenson also would like to get involved in politics in some way and tax the UK rich in some way. Gary Stevenson also has a history of depression and emphasizes his personal story in his book, which he is promoting. RAWSEP main question: is Musk promoting Gary Stevenson as Musk is promoting Andrew Tate? From Wikipedia. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Gary Stevenson, born 1986, 38 years old in Ilford, is a British economist, former financial trader, and YouTuber known for his economic analysis and activism against economic inequality. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, he predicted a rise in house prices and in the cost of shopping, and that inequality would increase. He joined the Patriotic Millionaires and Millionaires for Humanity to campaign for wealth tax and set up the YouTube channel Gary's Economics with the mission of explaining economics to the wider public. In 2021, he signed an open letter to Rishi Sunak alongside 29 other UK millionaires, calling on the then Chancellor to introduce a wealth tax and stating that instead of raising national insurance and taking £1,000 a year away from families on universal credit, the Chancellor, who is a multimillionaire, should be taxing himself and people like me, people with wealth. He has also proposed limiting the length of time for which people can keep their wealth in 2022. Stevenson appeared in the Channel 4 documentary Cryptocurrency Has the Bubble Burst? In 2023, Stevenson featured in Stephen Rowe Griffith's short film Gary Stevenson Life Out of Balance and appeared on BBC Politics Live. He wrote a memoir, The Trading Game, named after the event held by Citibank, which allowed him to obtain an internship there. It was acquired by Penguin Books in a 6-figure deal and released in March 2024. Joris Leyendik of The Guardian wrote that it was a well-written and often darkly funny book that makes a convincing case that high finance is as toxic, reckless, and deeply cynical as ever. Two articles follow, the first one on Gary Stevenson and second one on Andrew Tate, First, the ups and downs of a super trader. Gary Stevenson grew up poor, got rich in the city of London now. He says he has the only person on the left who really understands the British economy and the people who wield the power. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against with smoke emission Particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian. Friday, January 24th, 2025. I have interviewed Gary Stevenson 3 times, first in 2020 about global finance, again in 2022 about the cost of living crisis, and then last year when he published The Trading Game, his compelling memoir about life as a trader at Citibank. Now I am meeting him for the first time in the flesh ahead of the book appearance in paperback, and we are talking about yet another crisis. Have you seen the news? Is the first thing he asks, presenting it like a challenge. Even before he says hello, I rack my brain distressingly slowly like a librarian using a card index for the very first time, thinking which bit of the news? LA is on fire, Ukraine is on fire, a bunch of Teslas are on fire, traders are about to bring down the government. He says, oh, that news, they're selling the bonds. Stevenson reminds me, not with the same speed as with trust, but they are selling them. Interest rates are at 4.9% this morning. In my opinion, in the opinion of most unbiased economists, the government cannot afford to fund itself at 4.9%. I do not really get the fundamentals of what he is talking about. Stevenson does not mind. He does not really think anybody gets it except him. Nobody on the left understands what is happening on the financial markets except me. He says, I am on all these left-wing WhatsApp groups. I am the only guy that knows, and I have been screaming for months, watch the bond yields, watch the bond yields, watch the bond yields. Photo of Gary Stevenson in Canary Wharf, London. But why would not the markets just give a rightish center-left, completely unradical, relatively new Labour government a chance? Traders individually are smart people, but the market itself is a little bit of a wild beast. If you look at the UK Labour government, it is not on a sustainable financial path. There has been no sustained growth in this country for a long time. The government stripped to its bones. The middle class is dying. Where is the growth going to come from? What is the actual plan here? Market movements, market trends, these are all just a disembodied way of saying rich people, and Stevenson knows a lot about the rich. He is one of them thanks to his years at Citibank and an even more profitable second act trading for his own account since 2020. He has been running a YouTube channel, Gary's Economics, explaining to his 620,000 subscribers how the rich have grabbed everyone else's money. The rich have got a choice. He says they can lend the money to the government or they can buy the assets. I know what I am doing. I am buying the assets, stocks, gold, commodities, property, everything. The rich have got a lot of money. They can buy everything. The government has got to compete with that. They cannot. They are trying to play chess with no pieces. Stevenson is an incredible story. He was born in Ilford in East London. I grew up in a tiny little bedroom. I'm good at talking about economics. He is expelled from grammar school, gets into the London School of Economics, LSE, anyway, wins an internship at Citibank on a card game, gets a job, becomes the most profitable trader at the bank in 2011, is a multimillionaire by his mid-20s, has a mighty clash with the bank, but walks away the winner. Anyway, none of that is a spoiler for his book, because the real drama is what is happening to the economy. I pitched this book to Penguin in 2022 and said to them, if you think the economy is bad now, wait until this book comes out. Politics and economics are increasingly going to be everything people care about. Because this gets worse, the world falling apart, and it is not going to get better. I am going to build something about inequality and taxing the rich, and I am going to build it on YouTube. 6 months after The Trading Game was published, former colleagues lined up to tell the Mail and the Financial Times it was nonsense. He had never been the best trader at Citibank, they said, and it was not even possible for him to know either way. And besides, his mentor and colleague Billy Pseudonym was the best trader. It is such a trader response. Stevenson says he was not the best trader. You write a book basically saying the global economy going to collapse, and they are like, he is not the best trader. It is the only thing they can say. I made more money than you. He stands by his claims, but it can make a person go mad to be called a liar again and again. When Stevenson and Billy had this big split, Billy called me and said, you need me, and it is right. In a way, I looked after him like a father, and he kept me human. When he goes, life is nothing but the numbers. After doing an MPhil in economics in Oxford, he came back to London, simultaneously realizing that the global economy is going to collapse and being paid £2 million. You are the best at this thing. You are totally right. The global economy going to collapse. Here is £2 million. Go do it again. Stevenson still makes a lot of money trading, which he does to demonstrate to myself that I am not insane. You cannot do that if you are not right. If you made every economist who chats on the media bet their own personal money on what the traders are saying, there'd be a lot of untruths on the news. But his sights are all on politics. Andrew Tate is seeing the same thing I am seeing. Politics is dying. He says the far right are settling now. They know what their plan is. Anti-immigration is the big idea. Muslims are the bad guys. Tariffs. There is a battle of ideas in society, but there is a battle of ideas on the left. I am putting my pitch forward. I am going to build something about inequality, taxing the rich, and I am going to build it on YouTube. These are very ambitious plans, but what else am I supposed to do? Wait a second, does he actually want to be prime minister? This is quite a simple idea. If you do not do something about inequality, it will get worse and living standards will continue to fall. That idea is pretty simple. It does not need to be all on my shoulders. I am trying to set a fire under the people. I am trying to get them pumped on it. It may be the first thing he has said that is not quite an answer. RAWSEP view. Andrew Tate is described in the following article. The second article. Is Andrew Tate going to reinvent himself as a politician and save Britain? The self-styled misogynist has announced his intention to enter UK politics, and unfortunately, when it comes to influence, we cannot just laugh him off. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against with smoke emission Particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. January 14th, 2025. The desire to be a politician should bar you for life from ever becoming one. The comedian Billy Connolly once said, never has this been truer. There was a time when unapologetic narcissists and sociopaths thrived on reality TV. Now they all seem to be pivoting to podcasts and politics. The latest would be Politico. Is Andrew Tate the British-American self-styled misogynist and influencer who was humiliated by Greta Thunberg? He is suddenly very interested in becoming Prime Minister of Britain, which I suppose makes sense when you look at the legal mess he has in Tate and his brother Tristan are being investigated by Romanian authorities for alleged crimes, including forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking, trafficking of minors, sexual intercourse with a minor, and money laundering. As the convicted felon and adjudicated sexual abuser Donald Trump has demonstrated, you can get away with absolutely anything as long as you are powerful enough. There is no better get-out-of-jail-free card than being the guy in charge of the jails. Tate political ambitions are about as nuanced and developed as you would expect from a man who boasts about choking women, and has said he dates teenagers aged 18 to 19 because he can make an imprint on them. Earlier this month, he put up a poll on X asking his millions of followers if he should run for Prime Minister of the UK. There were 2 voting options: yes, say Brighton, sick, or no. Not only does Tate not know how to spell Britain, he also does not seem to realize that unlike the US presidency, you cannot actually run for Prime Minister. Nevertheless, his acolytes have cheered him on, and Tate has launched a political party called Britain Restoring Underlying Values Bruv that promises to restore pride to a nation under siege. I would not be surprised if the Tate Bruv party is just a desperate attempt to get Musk attention and replace Robinson in the affections of the tech mogul affections. While Musk has retweeted Tate before, it is not clear how well the 2 men know each other, but the lowlife clearly has American friends in high places. Tate has boasted that he has spoken to Baron Trump. And during a recent appearance on right-wing podcast, the Benny Show, Alina Habba, who is Trump lawyer and incoming counselor to the president, gushed about what a big fan she is of Tate. Once upon a time, the idea that an extremist such as Tate might have some sort of meaningful influence on politics would be laughable. Now it seems a lot less of a joke. 7 Greenland Trump again demands to buy Greenland in horrendous call with Danish Prime Minister. PM: the Danes are in crisis mode after US President call with Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Saturday, January 25, 2025. Donald Trump had a fiery phone call with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen over his demands to buy Greenland, according to senior European officials. Speaking to the Financial Times, officials said that Trump, then still president-elect, spoke with Frederiksen for 45 minutes last week, during which he was described to be aggressive and confrontational about Frederiksen's refusal to sell Greenland to the U.S. The Financial Times reports that according to 5 current and former senior European officials who were briefed on the call, the conversation was horrendous. One person said he was very firm. It was a cold shower. Before, it was hard to take it seriously. The Danes are now in crisis mode. Trump threatened specific measures against Denmark, such as targeted tariffs. Trump has previously said that the U.S. needs to control Greenland and has refused to rule out using U.S. military force to take over the territory. The 836300 sq mi 2,166,007 square kilometers Arctic island is rich in oil and gas as well as various raw materials for green technology. In 1953, Greenland became part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and in 1979, Home Rule was introduced despite Denmark controlling Greenland foreign and security policy. Greenland has its own parliament. During his New Year's speech, e.g. Greenland Prime Minister, following a visit from Donald Trump Jr. earlier this year, said, "We are Greenlanders. We do not want to be Americans. We do not want to be Danish. Either Greenland future will be decided by Greenland."